It's a great day. My name is Shay Brown, the happy entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the number one business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we're on a mission. And our mission is really to empower, yes. Our mission is to inspire, yes. But more importantly, our mission is to provide you, the entrepreneur, the one that works the hardest, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. And on this episode, we have the one and only Rodney Burris, who's in the building right now. What's going on, Rodney? How are you, my friend?
Man, I am happy to be here. I'm glad to be connected to you and your powerful brand. Let's get out here and be happy, Shay.
Man, I'm super excited to have you here. And this is really a great conversation because this is all about better people, better teams, and teams being more productive. And I couldn't wait for this conversation. I know you're in Baltimore, man. Aren't you in Baltimore right now?
Even Baltimore. Listen, shout out to Charm City. So Baltimore's nickname is Charm City. And that's because Baltimore, you ever had one of those peaches, Shay, back in the day? I ain't talking about these new fangled dangled ones that are very hard. I'm talking about those super sweet, might have a little bruise on the other side of it, right? That's like Baltimore, right? Baltimore has a lot of beauty. It has some bruises, but when you bite into that thing, there's a charm about the city. So those of us that call it home is Charm City, Baltimore, Maryland, man, and I'm so glad to be here.
I love Baltimore, being in Washington, D.C., and spent all my undergraduate years at Morgan State University and then Johns Hopkins. So I love Baltimore, and I love the crabs. Okay.
I graduated from Johns Hopkins, man. That's my alma mater. I was
mine too. What's up? Peace. Yeah. We both learned something, man, even on these conversations. Although I've had time to see you, break bread with you, and hang out with you, I always learn something new. You know, for those folks that are listening and watching, they're probably saying, okay, you're talking about better people, better teams. Can you take a moment from your perspective? What's the number one challenge that faces folks today, and what holds them back from having a productive team and getting more out of their team members?
Absolutely. So Shay, I had a mentor by the name of Al Laws, right? And Al Laws, his whole mindset that he would drill into us, because he had a whole cadre of us that he took under his wing. And he talked about being strength-based. And he talked about looking at everything from the positive, right? Instead of fighting darkness, what do we really want to do? We want to get rid of it. Well, you can't get rid of the darkness by fighting it. You get rid of the darkness by shining a light, even a little one, right? Even a little candle, even a little flick. So being very strength-based, being very positive intentionally. And so one of the things that he taught us to do was look at the other side of the coin, right? The other side of the coin. Well, if it can be true, Shay, that hurt people, then what do better people do for other people? Better people can better people, right? We can help each other come up. And so that kind of has been my life's work over the past, I would say 10 years, is really looking at how do I become different and better so that those around me automatically also become different and better in the process. And so that's the kind of whole idea behind that phrasing, better people, better people.
I love it. And then can you talk to two different folks right now? Can you talk to the folks that have to manage the team in their virtual? I just want to start there for where we are in the world. They might say, man, Shay, does Rodney have one or two ideas? Because truthfully, we don't have eye-to-eye contact anymore, Shay. Yes, through the power of these fiber optic lines, just like you and I, they can see each other, but they're not there. And so they're not breaking bread anymore like you and I had a chance to do at the Leadership Experience Tour. So number one question I'm asking first, ladies and gentlemen, is, how do you help teams that are virtually be more productive? And don't worry, when he finishes that, I won't forget, we'll come back and I'm going to ask them, what about those folks that are still going into the office? What about those folks that got to see people every single day? So first, talk to the virtual teams. What does it take to build productive folks?
So I have a contract, Shay, with the Federal Department of Education, right? I'm very blessed, grateful, honored to have this contract while I'm dealing with the leaders. The Federal Department of Education, based in D.C., is a team of 4,000 people. They undergird public education in the country, right? I am working on personal development trainers with their top leaders, which is a phenomenal opportunity. I share that, Shay, because one of those gentlemen was dealing with this issue right here. He's a little bit older than myself. They're moving from being completely virtual to kind of like this hybrid thing, like back in the office some, and what do those policies look like? And so we were doing what's called discovery, right? The first call is, Rod, we need some help. Can you fix it? Right? Like that's kind of like the first call, right? And I have a colleague that I work with as well. And so instead of just jumping in and just throwing stuff at the wall, you kind of just do some Q&A, like, well, tell me a little bit more. Well, one of the things, and it's the first tidbit that I'm going to share out of our conversation, and maybe a portion of this applies, is they didn't have a new set of agreed upon policies of how they wanted to work. It was expectations, right? Kind of the unspoken rules. Well, the problem with that is point blank obvious, but it's so point blank obvious that we miss it, right? It's so like we think about right now, right? I'm in my little studio office space, and you think all around me is nothing, each of us, right? But the air is full. The air is replete with life and molecules, and we know this, but we know it so much that we miss it. And so the fact that there were unspoken rules floating around, I asked them, and I want to say his name so bad because I use his name, but out of respect, I'm not going to say his name. But I said, so how was their feedback on the new policy of coming back into the office? He was like, young man, we don't have one of those. He was like, I guess we got to start at the basics. So some of this stuff might be that simple, right? Dealing with the virtual team. That's the first bit. Just kind of coming up with our new policy. And I say joint input, right? Going back to the mentor that I mentioned a little bit ago, Al Loss, the work that we did when I was under his tutorship, I would say, it was dealing with therapeutic foster care. And so these families had really, really challenging children situations. And he was like, when you're coming up with house rules for them, you'll do better if you invite them to the table for their rewards and also for like the punishment, right? And if they agree upon what the reward is for making a goal and what the punishment is for not meeting it, you have much more buy-in. That's a human dynamic, right? That works for all. That's not just for therapeutic teenagers in foster care. That's any of us. So that's the first tidbit. Coming up with a new set of policies that fit what we're trying to do in these team members with equal buy-in. The second thing, and this is about emotional intelligence, and this is how you level up a team's emotional intelligence like this in 7 to 8 words. You ready for this?
Yes.
If it were me, I would like. That's it. If it were me, I would like. If I was home and my supervisor was trying to get in touch with me, and I had the microwave going, and I got a toaster strudel over here, and I got my pet dog, cat, hamster, gerbil, parakeet on my shoulder, how would I like my supervisor to interact with me? If it were me, I would like. And that phraseology levels up emotional intelligence. And it puts us in a situation of y'all better, y'all need to, you know what you got to fix, you know what I don't like. Go. That's one part of it, right? But the other part of it, all of a sudden, when I'm in that seat and I'm looking across from the person that's receiving it, what would I like if that was my grandma on trial, right? Because when it's somebody else that's on trial, they're a bad person. Oh, they so bad, Shay. They're the most evil. How could they ever? Let it be my nana. Let's see what y'all didn't realize. See, Nana not really like this all the time. Y'all made, well, what if it was always my Nana? What if that was
Mm-hmm.
the lens I took? That levels up emotional intelligence like that. And simply reminding ourselves in situations, I'm getting mad, I'm getting agitated, right? And we use those as indicator. I was very proud, Shay. I started about 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right before the start of COVID, I got enrolled into counseling. And I was so anti-counseling prior to then, Shay. I was like, that's for crazy people. I ain't doing that. You know, I grew up hard in like the church world. And so you need to go to church more. If
Yeah.
you got to go to the counseling, you need to get your butt back in services all throughout the week. And I was exposed to more and more people that was like, Rodney, you should try it out. It's really working for me. And I'm like, I ain't doing it. I fought it for a long time. Eventually, I logged into and I embraced it. And one of the tidbits that came out of those sessions for me, Shay, the gentleman said, when you have these cues, when you see yourself responding, feeling, thinking, he was like, train yourself to use that as indicators about something else, right? And so for this piece that we're talking about, when I'm getting agitated as a supervisor, as a leader, as a boss, as a manager, as a director, when I'm getting annoyed, when they're not showing up how I need them to do, use that, the sensation of that frustration, training myself to identify that as a cue, not to come up with more laws or policies or do it right up, perhaps, but training myself to say, if it were me, I would like, boom. And then from that lens, we're embracing the opportunity. We're looking for the win and the mutual rise, because better people, better people.
I love that. Better people make better people. I mean, I love that. You broke that down. I love the example. And I just wanted to slow down for a moment and take a minute and talk to the small entrepreneur, because they can
Yeah,
apply those same principles that maybe
absolutely.
having one or two or three folks who are contractors, right? They're on their team, but they're still a team, but they're a
They're still,
contractor. And the reason I asked that question, Rodney, if you give an example from that view of the world, is that
yes,
probably
sir.
70% of our audience that are watching, they're dualpreneurs. These are folks who work all day 9 to 5. They come and they run
Mhm.
their business all evening, another 8 hours. They might take care of their family. They might take care of their husband
Yes,
or the wife, the dog, the kids. They're involved in the community, and they're stepping back saying, you know what, but what can I, the entrepreneur, do that's taking on a small team? So here's the question: what are your 1, 2, 3s for the person that has what you call 1099s, are people that they hire? They're on their team and they do pay
like
them,
myself.
but how can they get the best results out of them as well?
So first of all, I just want to honor that lifestyle and that struggle, right? Let's just start right there. Having the benefit of a whole corporation or organization that gives us overhead and all that kind of stuff, we can take that for granted when we're just 9 to 5, right? But when we decide to go out there and be happy entrepreneurs, quote unquote happy entrepreneurs, that's a completely different lifestyle. Is one that I definitely can identify with. In those situations, yes, we have clients, but those are also collaborators, right? Those are not just people that work for us, but those are people that we are hoping that we have mutual interest in, right? That can get frustrating, especially when it seems like um, things aren't moving, right? Like, I need you to do. And it's tough. The old adage, Shay, is it's hard to change the tire once the car's in motion, right? And sometimes we find ourselves in situations, let me just speak for myself, where you gotta ride that thing out, right? Where this particular initiative or this thing and is not doing exactly what you need, but to change it right now is gonna be costly, right? Is going to be a whole lot more money. And so making that situation, I'm going to give a shout out to my mom. And I know this is not quite entrepreneurial, but I think it parallels, right? Let me take a step back. I've been working in a consultative space for a long time, since about 2005. One of the things that has granted me is not being a guru and a holder of all knowledge and wisdom taken out to the world. Instead, and this is always such a funny analogy, but I feel it's true for me, Shay. I liken myself unto like a honeybee, right? And so, like, this bee is out there in the meadow and all that kind of stuff, and it's going flower to flower, and it's collecting pollen. And when it goes to the next flower, guess what it gets to do? It gets to drop off some pollen. I didn't make the pollen. I wasn't at the hive cooking it up. I literally was granted access being around these leaders, right? Being around these individuals, being around the Sean Fairs of the world and just different individuals. And it's like, oh, and then I find myself in a situation and I'm like, well, you know what worked over there? I have a book. It's called The 5 Fast Features for Fixing Firms. I hope you guys can see it. I don't know if it's reversed for everybody out there in the world, Shay. But this book, I
Oh,
wish I could.
let's try it again. Let me just give me a second. Hold on, let me see if I can figure that out. Hold on, let me see, figure it out. Give me one. Don't show it yet. Don't show it. Let me go
Oh,
here,
don't show it yet.
Rodney. No, okay, now
Now
put it
do
up.
it.
Is it? Oh, no, hold, I hit
Boom.
the button. Down it is. There you go.
You're magical. Shay is magical. Shay is magical. Okay, so let me tell you about the reason why I'm referencing this, and I'm gonna bring this full circle for our entrepreneurs dealing with collaborators, right? This little booklet is not the product of a super brain genius Rodney C. Burris sitting down. I like to think of myself as a genius. I would love to be, but if I'm being completely truthful, Shay, this book is the product of being around this leader, this executive director, this president, this management team over the years since 2005. And after 5, 17 years, I started noticing trends and patterns. Like, oh, this is how the top leaders approach this. This is how they approach that. And taking that all together produce this work, right? Now, so it has my flavoring, right? It is my ratio, but I was able to gain it. What I learned from my mom was in a situation where, not as an entrepreneur, but just as a human, right? These are human dynamics. She was in a situation where if she didn't make an immediate move, life was going to break, right? And my mom tells me all the time, like, you tell my story and people going to think there's so much was wrong with me. And I'm like, Mom, but I don't think they think it's as bad. But she's like, you make me seem so bad out there. But my mom was in a very tough spot when I was a child. And she made a choice. And she made a choice, Shay, that's equivalent. Imagine being in a vehicle that's going downhill, out of control, out of control. And the end result is a bunch of rocks and crashing and discomfort, pain, if not worse. My mom did the equivalent of collecting me and my little sisters and jumping out of that vehicle. Now, what does that mean? That means we hit the ground tumbling, so to speak, right? That means we were scratched up. That means, there was some bumps and bruises that came out of that. What's the alternative? The alternative was at the bottom of that rocky hill in this vehicle that she had no control over. As entrepreneurs, we need to assess, do I have the time to bring this thing to a halt?
There I was, sitting.
Do I have the time to ride this thing out? Or am I in a situation where it's better for me to collect what I can and salvage it, because staying in this is going to be much worse in the outcome. And that's what comes with being in our role as an entrepreneur, right? As being in a situation, Shay, I'm saying so much. This is the last thing I'm gonna say about this, the word entrepreneur. If we break that word down, you have entree, which means to go into. You have the pre, which means before, and you have the nor, which is one who does. Like a baker is one who bakes, a driver is one who drives, right? So an entrepreneur literally is one who goes into something before. Before what? Before there's a blueprint set before them. Before there's 10, 20 other people that says, this is how you do it. I'm figuring this out as a frontiersman, as a pioneer. And that's a lot of reward and that's a lot of risk, right? So in this position, being connected to other entrepreneurs that's saying, this is what I did. This is what I heard Shay did in the same situation. There was this funny looking guy named Rodney C. Burris. He was on Shay's show. He kind of said XYZ. That's kind of our best safety net to approach these things. And so what I would say to us, like myself, that are in this entrepreneurial space, we got to make those assessments over time. Is this worth riding out? Because is it just bumpy, but we can get through it? Or do I need to actually collect what I can and make moves, even though that's a tough call?
I like it, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Nah, I love it. I mean, so well said. And as folks are listening and watching, some folks are looking below, they're reading your bio. I get it. They're already Googling you. They're out there. And they may be curious, what does this guy do for fun, Shay, when he's not out saving the world? Like when he's not out saving the world, helping teams get better. I'm just curious, what's one of his hobbies? Like, what do you do for fun?
Okay, all right. Listen, this is a no judgment zone, right? This is between me and you, Shay, right? And the millions and millions of Shay lovers, right? I am such a huge boxing and fight fan, UFC, mixed martial arts. I go to fights. I live in Bmore. I'll be in Philly. I'll be in Vegas. I'll be in New York. Definitely when it's in Baltimore. A random Saturday night, I'm at some restaurant, some sports bar. I love that. So I spend a lot of time. I have little accounts where I get to talk trash, right? So I might have like social media. All of my social media is at Rodney C. Burris, right? Anything that you're on, your TikToks, your Instagram, your Twitters, but I have to create these other ones because, you know, when you get in that world, you don't always use the nicest lingo in those kind of situations, right? And so to give me the opportunity to stretch out, you know, I got some stuff that's not Rodney C. Burris that allows me to talk about just being in that atmosphere. So I love that. And listen, if any of our phenomenal family out there in entrepreneur world also loves that, hit me up. Because once we finish setting the world, we could go catch out some of these upcoming mega fights, you know. So that's what I love to do, man.
I love it, man. I love your energy. I love your heart to give, your heart to serve. We have a segment here at the show called "Today is My January 1st." And for those folks that tune in every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can go ahead and say those words. Or if you're one of the folks that subscribe and you follow us on YouTube or any of the social media platforms over at I Am Shay Brown, you can go and say those words. Today is my January 1st. And for those folks that are new, welcome to the family. We're glad to have you aboard. Today is my January 1st is our personal mantra at the show. It represents a do-over. Today is my January 1st represents a fresh start. It means our past no longer equals our future. And we're not going to wait till December 31st at 11:59 p.m. on the back of a napkin to declare we're ready to get going. No, it's our happy new year time now. So my question to Rodney, when he hears those words, today is my January 1st, what do you hear? And what does it mean to you, man?
Man, I've recently entered into a January 1st, man, a new beginning, right? A fresh start. That for me, there's a gentleman, and I am going to use his name, that I decided to buy into his system. And I mean that from a mental state, like really kind of taking a position of humility. So I'm going to say his name is Dr. Will Moreland, right? And I believe you're familiar with him, Shay. He's a mega powerhouse in our world as it relates to training and speaking and development. And I met Dr. Moreland as a colleague, right? A couple of years ago. And he and I, you know, touched on, well, let's work together this way, that way. And a whole bunch of things went up and down and we never really launched anything. And over time, you know, you just stay connected to people. And I've been fairly successful in what I do. I ain't been in no private jet, Shay, like this brother. I listen, I'm not hobnobbing with the multi millionaires of the world like this brother. And so I was just watching it like, man, that's pretty cool. That's really, really nice. And one day, man, I go for morning walks, exercise, run. It depends on what I try to move my body in an exercising way every single morning, every day. I eat every day, sleep every day, right? Exercise every day. 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 hours, whatever it is for that day. And I was out one morning, man, and then it's like I heard in my background, Shay, in the back of my mind, something that I knew I should do. And I just was like, yeah, I'll get to it. It was hit up Dr. Moreland. Like, it's time to level up this way. It's time to get into that system. That's a friend of mine. I'm not about to get up under him like one of the little, sure? You ready to start January 1st? Or you want to just kind of keep having the same old? And that particular morning, Shay, I was able to hear it. And I'm so grateful to have been able to hear it. And I texted him to lock myself in. I said, good brother, I'm not at the house yet. I said, but later on today, I'm going to hit you up. We're going to move forward. I'm going to lock in. It has been a phenomenal experience. Things that I didn't know, right? And so for me to be in a situation where I'm always sharing the pollen like the honeybee, to be at the table and just doing the work and going through the process, it's refreshing, Shay. It's refreshing. So this is my January 1st, man. And I'm looking forward to the fruit that's going to come out of it, man. And being just, you know, humble with the system and doing the work.
Man, thank you for being so transparent. Dr. Will Moreland is an amazing individual. So shout out to him. He may be watching at this very moment. He's a pretty cool guy. I've known him for a number of years. Folks that are watching may be curious. what type of clients does your firm take on, if any, right now? And number two, what's the best way for them to connect with you and stay in the conversation over and beyond today?
If you have an organization that you feel your team members could benefit from leveling up their emotional intelligence, it's something that we call an EQ. So you have IQ, which is their intellect, how smart a person is, right? And there's ways to work on that academically and brain games. But as smart as I am I relating well to my team, to my colleagues, to my children, in my relationship to myself? If we feel like that's something that your people can benefit from, leveling up their emotional intelligence, then we probably would have a great time together. I got small things, I got huge things, I got year-long things, I got 2-week things, all sorts of opportunities. The best way to get in touch with me, my website is rodneycburris.com. My last name is spelled Burris. Rodney C. Burris. My mama calls me Chris. So that's what the C stands for, Rodney C. Burris. And again, that's all over social media. I would love to explore conversation. Shay, thank you so much, man, for inviting me on the show.
Thank you for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show, man. We appreciate you. Keep making a big difference in the world. Looking forward to seeing you, man, having eye-to-eye contact and breaking bread again. I can't wait.
Absolutely. Good to see you,
and
Shay.
let me also say thank you as well. You, the viewers, you, the folks that show up every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, no matter if you're downloading the podcast, which you can find us at the Happy Entrepreneur Show, or you're tuning in live, or you're watching this replay right now. I always like to remind you that you're amazing. I want to remind you that you're awesome, and that for you today is your January 1st. And because of that reason, I believe for you, your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. Your best is still yet to come. And so with that being said, my name, in case you forgot, is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Remember that time is long. It really is. Life on the other side is, well, it's very, very short. So we got to live in that moment, and we got to make it count. God bless me. Wish you success. Thanks a lot, Rodney. You're amazing. We out of here. Peace, everyone. We'll see y'all on the other side.